I was standing in my grandmother's living room, sunlight cutting through the lace curtains, dust drifting in the air like tiny specks of gold. My hands were deep in a stack of crocheted squares, each one meticulously crafted, each stitch pulled tight with the quiet satisfaction that comes from hours of focus. This wasn't just any project. It was my first king-sized blanket, my gift to myself and my boyfriend for our first shared apartment next year. That's when my cousin walked in. She smiled, the kind of polite family smile you put on when you haven't seen someone in a while. Her eyes landed on the pile of squares in my lap. I could feel it before she even spoke. That shift in the air, the moment when admiration turns into expectation. "These are beautiful," she said, picking one up between her fingers. "You know, with all the time you're putting into this, you could make another one. You could give this one to my daughter for her birthday." It wasn't a question. It wasn't even a request. It was a statement. I froze, my fingers gripping the yarn a little tighter. She wasn't just asking me to part with this blanket, the one I'd been dreaming of seeing draped over our bed. She was telling me to give it away, to set aside weeks, maybe months, of work and hand it over for free. I told her no, not angrily, just firmly. I explained that making a blanket like this was hard work, that the yarn I use isn't cheap, that this wasn't just about materials. It was about the hours upon hours it takes to bring it to life. But I wasn't slamming the door completely. I told her I'd be willing to put my own project aside and make one for her daughter, as a commission. A family rate, I called it. Just the cost of the yarn, plus $1 an hour for my time. Her expression shifted, the way it does when someone realizes you're not going to give them exactly what they want. She didn't agree. She didn't offer to pay. And then, later, my father weighed in. He told me I should have just asked her to pay for the yarn and made the blanket for free. Like the hours of work I'd be putting in didn't really count. What he didn't understand is that even if she paid for the yarn, the labor is the heart of it. That's the real cost. And this wasn't just a blanket. This was a commitment of my time, my energy, my hands, all given to someone who hadn't even asked nicely, who had simply expected. I thought maybe I was overreacting, until I remembered. I'd made gifts before, handmade gifts, from the heart. A crocheted platypus once, which she'd insulted. Stuffed animals for her kids, which were met without much warmth. And now she wanted the most ambitious project I'd ever attempted, simply because she saw it sitting in my lap. Here's the thing. People who don't make things with their hands often don't realize every stitch you see in a crocheted blanket carries minutes of someone's life. This one would take about 100 hours. 100 hours of repeating the same motions until your wrists ache, until your fingers cramp, until the rhythm becomes almost meditative. And then you start to feel that little pulse of pride because you can see it growing, piece by piece. That pride is personal. You don't just hand it over to someone who decided they want it more than you do. The yarn alone for something like this? Easily $70 if I went cheap, closer to $200 for the quality I prefer. And that's before counting the hours. Even at my symbolic family rate, we're talking $250 or more in labor. I tried to imagine if the roles were reversed. Would she stop her own project and make me something for free? Would she pay me for my time if I asked? Or would she laugh it off as just a hobby? Because that's the other thing. When people call something just a hobby, what they're really saying is, Your time isn't worth money because you enjoy doing it. All right. But that's not how it works. A baker might love baking, but you still pay for the cake. A carpenter might love their craft, but you still pay for the furniture. My grandmother, the very woman whose house we were in, had more respect for my work than that. I'd come to help her with chores because her shoulders hurt, and she'd insisted on paying me $50, even though I'd told her I was happy to help. She understood that work is work, even if it's done out of love. But my cousin? She didn't even offer to cover the cost of the yarn. She wanted a gift, not because her daughter needed it, not because she'd cherish it, but because she thought she could get it without paying. I tried, politely, to make her see. I offered to teach her to crochet, to show her how to make her own blanket. She brushed it off, saying she didn't have as much free time as a student. And that was the moment I realized it wasn't about the blanket. It was about what she thought my time was worth, which, in her mind, was nothing. My father's argument kept ringing in my ears. Just have her pay for the yarn. But what he wasn't seeing is that the yarn is the smallest part of the equation. This wasn't like buying a ready-made blanket from a store. This was weeks of work, each stitch an investment. And the more I thought about it, the angrier I felt. Because it wasn't just about her. If I said yes to this, what message would I be sending? That my time, my skills, my labor could be claimed by anyone who asked. That being family meant I owed them work for free. That the pride I take in my craft should be given away just because it's possible for me to do it. It's not easy to tell someone no, especially someone in your family. But the way she asked, the assumption in it, left me no choice. In that moment, I saw the future if I said yes. I saw more requests, more expectations, more of my own projects pushed aside so I could make things for other people who didn't value them. I saw the resentment building, the joy of crocheting slowly slipping away until it felt like a chore. So I told her no again, this time without cushioning it, and she didn't like it. Maybe she'll tell people I'm selfish. Maybe my dad will keep thinking I should have done it for free. But I know my worth. I know what this work costs. And I know the difference between giving a gift and being taken advantage of. The blanket for my boyfriend and me is still in progress. Each square I add feels like a little victory, not just because it's beautiful, but because it's still mine. Because I didn't let someone else decide what I should do with it. And yet, I can't help wondering, in standing my ground, did I come off cold? Should I have agreed to her request just this once for the sake of keeping peace? Or would that have only opened the door to more demands? So, am I the asshole? This is your host, and I've been thinking about this one ever since I first heard it. Because this isn't just about yarn and stitches. It's about boundaries. It's about knowing where your generosity ends and someone else's entitlement begins. There's a dangerous myth in our culture that if you can do something, you should do it for free, especially for family. But love isn't proven by how much of yourself you give away without asking for anything in return. Love is proven when respect flows both ways. When your time, your skill, your labor are valued. If you take nothing else from this story, take this. Your work has worth, even if you enjoy doing it. Your time is a resource you can't get back. And anyone who respects you will understand that. So I want to hear from you. Have you ever been asked to give away your work for free? Did you say yes? Or did you stand your ground? And do you think the storyteller here made the right choice?